So how are you? You are now in France. How is it going on? Your innovation. You've been talking about innovation, and you should see us.
I don't hear you well. This
right now?
Okay. I have the image now.
Yeah, this is Bartek. He's presenting his muscles. So
I don't understand what you say. You are too far from the microphone. Yes, I have found a surprising number of social innovation in surprising places. But I would like to start with some portraits. Next picture, thank you. So this one is Marlon Parker. I met him in Cape Town. He was living in a difficult neighborhood and decided to create a digital expression workshop where he invited 14 kids and taught them how to tell their story with digital tools. And then the kids went back home. The day after, the parents came and said, we have stories to tell. And then the little brother, bigger sisters, grandparents, and so on. And after 2 years, 6,000 people had gone through this workshop. What is interesting is in order to help the kids who, and many of them were drug addicts, he invented a tool to handle many SMS conversations at the same time, more than 300. So the coaches could advise the kids. And this technology was adopted by Mixit, which is the biggest African social network, then by Finland, Great Britain, and Indonesia. So social innovation which spread around the world. Next slide. So this woman is Ranwa Yeya, and she created another digital expression experiment with kids from the Arab world. She's Egyptian. And what is very interesting is that in 2009, the kids coming from all the places of the Arab world were saying, we want Coke. And the professors and the advisors said, no, Coke is not good for your health. They said, okay. And in 2010, the same request came, we want in a meeting, we want Cokes and sweets. And the parents said no. And so they took control of the camp. There was a small revolution in the camp, and they took the power. They used Twitter that they had learned how to use to tell the world that they wanted Coke in the camp. What is interesting is that it was 2010, and the feeling of revolution was spread and could be felt by the kids in the Arab world, and they translated what they had learned into empowerment. The next slide, completely different. It's this woman is Liliana Peter Nava, and Nebnik was a social network for schools, and they realized that there was no solid platform in education in Russia, so they mixed everything: management tools, online courses, notation systems, and even the parents. And they are modernizing teaching in almost 30,000 schools in Russia. Next. This guy, Nandu Madhava, was born in Bangalore, raised in the US where his parents went, and came back to Bangalore and decided to change the universal medical information that you can get online. Basically, he says, the information you get online has been created between London and San Francisco, useless for Indians. So he created a company which sells medical information through SMS, 1 rupee, 1 information a day. And then he had to pivot, and he is now teaching on top of his medical information, yoga, well-being, and through videos. Next one. Isaac Mao is a Chinese. He was one of the first bloggers in China, and he is a developer, and he is creating a platform, a technological platform to help activists. His point is, activists don't know about technology, and they could use a service that provides a way to charge, way to connect people, information, and so on. He coined a term which is shareism, which is how to share in a creative manner value to who gives and to who receives. Next slide. So this is the Fab Lab in Nairobi. What is very interesting is that a connected Fab Lab allows to find solutions for very specific problems. On the left-hand side, this is a very small bridge that you can use in a favela when it is the rainy season. So you create the bridge and you can go over small rivulets that become a problem in the rainy season. And the one on the right is a bicycle with a pump, which allows you to empty latrines without dirtying your hands. Very useful for the health issues. Last slide of this first round. It is an image of women who are working in significant numbers, higher than in pure technology and higher than in San Francisco or in Europe. So the girl on the left are two Indonesian women. On the right, you have an African woman whose name is Linda Kwamboka, and who created an application for peasants in Nairobi to get the best price they can find and sell their products together or bring inputs together. And the last one on the bottom is a Chinese woman who created a social network limited to women, so they have intimacy and they can talk about what they want, their best friend. Conclusion of all this, one of the main trends I found during my travel is the incredible growth of social impact initiatives. And there is a quote I love, which was given to me by Bright Simmons, who created M-Pedigree for health issues in Africa, and who told me, if Steve Jobs had been an African, he would have been a social entrepreneur, meaning you cannot create in certain conditions without contributing to the social well-being. I think two of them are significant. The first one, Europe took a long time, and not everybody agrees, to understand the importance of mobile first. And Africa, India, Southeast Asia, Latin America understood the importance of mobile first much before we did. And for instance, everybody in your room know WhatsApp, but you should know WeChat, KakaoTalk, and Line, which come from Japan, China, and Korea. So mobile first, they got that earlier, and they are ahead of us in many fields, in many aspects of this problem. The second one is what I call distributed innovation. No, don't change yet. No. Don't change. Not yet. Not this one yet. No. Yes, we stay here. I'm talking. You have to listen sometime. No, my daughter, one of my daughters is blonde, so I have the highest respect for her. The main trend, I think, is distributed innovation, which is different from global. It emerges from everywhere. There is money everywhere. You have universities everywhere. There are entrepreneurs everywhere, and there is the internet. And so people, cities, countries, continents want to create their future, which is the title of our conference, of our talk. And so now you can change. And this is an example. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is two pictures I've taken in Beijing. And you can see that Beijing has included innovation in its motto. And what is important to get behind that is that it is a shift in the history of modernization. What do I mean by that? For the last 500 years, most innovation, or innovation in many places, came from outside. And so this was a reason not to accept it. And you know all the problems of modernization in the third world and so on. If you innovate, and if you innovate everywhere, you create your own future, and you don't need the others. That means that you will keep going. You will keep innovating. So this is the most powerful trend I have found in my travels. Okay, so next picture. So this is the definition of innovation from the OECD, and I think it's very interesting because it shows that innovation goes far beyond R&D, that it is not only a technological issue. You have product innovation, which is when a good service is new or significantly improved. Process innovation, which is when production or delivery method is new or significantly improved. Marketing, which implies significant change in product design, packaging, placement, promotion, or pricing. Organizational innovation, which is key in my view, in business practices, workplace organization, or external relation. My own definition, so I asked everybody I met, 300 people in the world tour whose map you saw at the beginning, I asked the question, what is innovation from you? And my definition, next slide, is that innovation is a new assemblage of elements, not necessarily new, to solve a problem or take advantage of an opportunity. Next. What is interesting is that the newness is in the combination. So when people tell you this was there already, for instance, if you remember Web 2.0, many people said it's not the big thing. The problem is the combination, what was new, and this is very close to many things that Schumpeter has said about innovation. So, okay, I forgot. So excuse me, I forgot this one. I changed something during the night, so that's my mistake. So superpowers, what I wanted to say is that you have, no, it is not, I don't know what I did. So excuse me, forget me, but I know what is on the slide, never mind. So what I want to say is that you have, people tend to look to their market, their universe, or to look to Silicon Valley and the US. This is wrong. This distributed innovation will bring you things from all over the world, and there are big powers now, like Israel, who has created Waze, among other things, many other things, second country with most companies on NASDAQ behind China and after the US. You have Russia, who has the strongest Russia and Belarus and so on, who have the strongest, the best developers in the world. And for instance, in 2014, if I don't remember, if I'm not wrong, there is a world competition of developers. Among the 10 first, you had 4 Russian, 1 Belarusian, and it was in Warsaw, by the way, so you should know better than I do. What is fascinating is that Harvard was 7th and Stanford was number 14. So you have big power. And then China, which many people see only as a market, and this is completely wrong. China has applied for patents at the World Intellectual Property Organization. The application from China corresponds to 30%, 33% of the total, much before the US, and it grows by 2-digit each year. And Europe as a whole corresponds only to 5.8% of the applications for patents. So China 33%, the US 22%, Japan 18%, and Europe as a whole under 6%. So excuse me for this mistake in the order of my slides. Next slide, please. So your question. Now I can answer your question, and I apologize again. So you are asking if there is a magic potion. Next. The answer, I'm sorry to say, is no. But there are 3 constants. Next. The first one is open spaces. This is taken in a building in Nairobi. On the top left hand, you have an incubator. And the incubator closes its doors to protect intellectual property. This is not very good. And on the right hand and below and lower right corner, you have iHub, which is one of the most interesting co-working spaces that I have found in the world. and where you have open spaces with small companies, individuals, groups working in the back, and so on. So the first thing is open spaces, and there is a key notion given by Brian Eno, who is a British musician, who talks about collective genius as senius. So the individual genius is genius, and the collective genius is senius. Why? Because collectives to work together need a space, needs a scene, and so that's a key notion, the notion of open space, and for that. Next, this is Brian Eno. Next, you have several diversities. So the first one is open spaces, the second one is diversities. The first one, nobody talks about it, is diversities of entrepreneurs. You have several types of entrepreneurs in my view. On the right-hand side, you see a business entrepreneur, Rockefeller. On the bottom right hand, you see an intrapreneur, the guy who invented the post-it notes in 3M. So autonomy within a big company to create as an entrepreneur. On the top left-hand side, you have a social entrepreneur who I've been talking about, Marlon Barker. And at the bottom left, you have Gandhi. Gandhi is an activist, he's an example of activist, he's a model of activist, and he was an entrepreneur for me. Why? Because he brings together resources which he does not control at the beginning to solve a problem or take advantage of an opportunity. You can apply this to Martin Luther King, to the history of Poland. You have activists can be seen as entrepreneurs. They don't make money. They are not interested in making money. But they change the world by bringing together forces that they do not control at the beginning necessarily. So, second slide. Next slide, please. So, the diversities of genders, they are very important. And ethnic background, genders, these are women in Russia, China, and in Africa. Key element. Next one. So this is a picture that basically some of you know, two pictures of Skolkovo. So we have open spaces, diversities, and no control. What is key is that in Skolkovo, Medvedev, who is the guy who contributed, wanted Skolkovo to happen, said one day, we put $15 billion in this, we want to control everything. Next slide. Opposite to that, we have Vishal Gundal, who I interviewed in Mumbai. Vishal Gundal made money, wanted to help his community to create and to innovate. So but the problem in India, in Mumbai, is that the apartments or office space is very expensive. And if in the US you can create a startup in 3 months, in India you need 3 or 5 years. So you cannot keep people for 3 or 5 years in one place, in an incubator. So he invented the term excubator. He keeps the guys outside, and he talks to them every week. They come to his office once a week. He helps them meet people they need, experience they need. And so the excubator is an applied notion with much less control to the reality of Mumbai to develop innovation. Next. Next. Okay, no, that's my fault, my mistake. So this is maybe the most important I would like you to keep. It comes from a book which is called The Rainforest. You look for that and you will, How to Create Silicon Valleys or something like that. And the notion is this: production and innovation are two different things. Production comes from agriculture. You want to control, you want to measure everything, you want to be precise. You do not get innovation through that. I'm going to read you one sentence coming from the book, and it is the next slide, please. Natural rainforests do not predetermine the certain evolution of new and valuable species, but they provide the right settings to foster their serendipitous evolution. Serendipity is the key thing. And you want to create spaces and conditions in which diversities without control meet and create things that were not planned. Another sentence I like, which is not in my slide, is what is called by some people Carlson Law. And the Carlson Law is that innovation that happens from the bottom up tends to be chaotic but smart. Innovation that happens from the top down tends to be orderly but dumb. And Thomas Friedman from the New York Times coined a much more journalistic term: all top down is stupid, all bottom up is chaotic. Think about that. And so my conclusion from this part is that if you include what we saw about the giants and the powers, the fact that you have distributed innovation and that you have people who are beginning to understand how to innovate, you have to learn not to look only at your market, not to look only at your profession, and so this is what I call the 720 degrees worldview, panoramic view, markets and different professions, and the world not only limited to Poland and to or whatever country and to the US, but open to the rest of the world. The first thing, a little bit to shock some of you, because I imagine the number of geeks in the room is high, is that I met many geeks in San Francisco where I lived for 15 years, and they were behind their screens and did not even realize that not everybody in the world had a different screen size. And when I traveled around the world, I still met geeks behind their screens and not very sensitive to what's, a little bit more, but to what was going on. So cities and smart cities is where geeks finally mix the citizen and not only the user. So this is the first thing, and it's very interesting. I am in Toulouse. At 50 meters from where I am, there is a hackathon to try to solve city problems, and you have geeks and other people, and you know what a hackathon is. This is the human side of things. There is a more serious and not abstract global approach. I think smart cities are at the intersection of four significant revolutions. The first one is urbanization. As you know, within 15 years from now, no, 30 years from now, the number of people living in city will be double of what it is today. That means that you have to create cities or increase the size of cities in a significant manner. China gets more urbanized by 1 New York every year, 20 million inhabitants. And India gets more urbanized by 1 Chicago every year, 10 million inhabitants. So the urbanization is a huge thing. Second, technological revolution, which can help us solve problems. Technological revolution in the cities is about a phygital space, physical and digital space. Phygital space where you can, everything physical has a shadow in the digital layer, and from the digital layer you can act on the physical layer. This is one world, phygital space. The third one is climate challenge. We have been raised thinking, and it is true, that cities are the strongest, the biggest problem that alters climate. But if we don't solve we can turn this around and say, if we can solve the problem of cities, make cleaner cities, more sustainable cities, then we can act more efficiently on the climate change. And the last one is a change in the world order. Next slide, please. The first one is, so you see this slide, keep it in mind. See the second slide I would like you to it is known, many of you may know it. Half of the humanity lives in this small white circle, which represents 1/6 of the emerged land in the world. So there is a displacement from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and not only to the Pacific, it is to this part of the world. This is a change in the world order. You work in technology, 10 years from now, many standards will start or will have to take into account what China decides. The second change in the world order, next slide, is, no, could you go back? No, so I don't know why you don't have it, because I sent it. Okay, that's not a problem. There is a problem with the traditional form of democracy. There is a distanciation between the elites and the people, and when you work on the cities, you can use technology and proximity, and people may participate in a more active manner. So in my terms, I make a distinction between data police, the dominant model which is proposed by big technologies companies. They treat data, they collect data, they treat data, and what I call participolice, which is people participating and taking control of the design of their city and of the management of their city. And thanks, next picture. Thank you for your time, and sorry not to have been able to come to Warsaw. I'm sure I missed a lot of things and nice, wonderful people. If there is time for questions, I'm open, or comments. Okay. Thank you. Have a great conference.